Soundharya, are you ready to take it away?
Yes, I am.
Rock on, let's go.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm Soundharya Khanapur. I'm currently pursuing Masters in Computer Science at NC State, and thank you. And I previously worked as a software engineer at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development. And today I'm going to talk with my friend Shivani on PySecOps. So this is intentionally prepared for those who are beginners with Python or web applications, or you are just getting started with security. And those who are experts, well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a quick recap, right? Okay, so yeah, let's get started. So we'll go through a couple of contents. So yes, coming to random values. So, well, it all depends on your seed. So like when you use pseudo-random number generators, which can lead to predictable numbers if the generator is known and the seeds can be guessed easily. So a good starting point would be to use a seed which is like of 256-bit. And coming to SQL injection, well, this is when you mess up with SQL. Well, you never know what the user enters, right? So a best way to prevent this is to have input validation. And another approach would be to use prepared statements, which just abstracts the SQL syntax from the input parameters. Next, coming to XSE processing. Well, this arises from XML parser. So usually web applications which use XML libraries are particularly vulnerable to this kind of attack. And based on the parser you use, you are supposed to disable the DIL field. And one way to do this with Django is to just let the parser entity to false. Well, next coming to command injection. This again occurs when untrusted input is passed to the system commands. So as you can see, when this can be easily prevented by just user input validation. So next, coming to session fixation. This lets the attackers to use the user's session. Well, as you can see above, this happens when you do not flush the previous session and just like assign the user with a new session. So whenever you are dealing with this, just flush the session and generate a new token. And when you generate a token, then again, how random can your token be? So one way to do this is to use Python's getRandomString method, which lets you generate a good enough alphanumerical number. Next, coming to reflected excesses. This lets the attackers to execute the malicious script in user's browser. So here, this can be easily prevented by just removing the safe keyword. And the same goes with the stored XSS. And next, coming to DOM XSS. So here, this usually happens when you write inline script to get the user input, and this again can be prevented by adding input validation. And next, coming to directory traversal, this can be exploited when the users, when the attacker is used to have access to the unintended directory structure. So here, when you are using, you can just restrict the path which you want the users to have permission to by making it mandatory to start from a previous from a starting point. So the next part will be covered by Shivani.
So, hello everyone. Am I audible? Yeah. So, this is Shivani Shetty here, and I used to work as a full stack developer back in India, and I used to work as a, I used to work mainly with the Yum products, that is KFC and Pizza Huts, and some of the issues that I'll be talking about, I have seen them hackers doing it on the back end. So, some of them I'll be talking about them, what actually happens over there. Currently, I work as a cybersecurity consultant, and so I come with a blend of software engineering as well as cybersecurity. So the first thing that I'll be talking about will be leftover debug code. As developers, when something breaks, the first thing we do is we start to debug the code, and sometimes we don't uncomment. Since we put the comments on our code and we don't actually remove those comments. And if the company is like new, and if the only person who is developing the whole code, there won't be a CI/CD pipeline to check all the things that have been happening. So in order to avoid that, I can give an example of, here, if you can see, there is a commented code which has debug is equal to 1. What that is doing is, it was given to the QA testing team so that the testing process is fastened up, and they don't have to add username and password. They can directly log in. But as a developer, the developer forgot to uncomment that, and before putting it into production. So when a hacker visits this website, and when they go through the document, they notice this debug code, which is the flag. If you enable the flag, then something will happen. So in that case, when we do that, we can directly get into the admin panel, and we can play with different kind of, we can use the data of users and also misuse them. So making sure that we always have code that is very safe on the production side is something that we should always look into. The next thing that, one of the things that I noticed people doing when I was working at KFC was people used to add, let's say, I can give you an example. Let's say we have redirections, login redirections, and what people used to do is they used to just enter email and password on the URL to check what happens, right? So this can be avoided if you use post methods instead of using get methods. So what is happening here is, if you see what passing authentication credential URL exposes a lot of various kind of risk. And if we are having get requests, get request response added to our code, it will display on the logs, it will display the username password of the user that they have put in the web application. So it is very important to use post requests rather than get requests. Another important aspect is a lot of people save their sessions. Let's say a lot of them store their username passwords on Google, so that you don't have to log in all the time. There are chances that the sessions can be hacked, and a lot of your information can be retrieved from just getting through your session. So what actually happens here is, if you see the URL here, there is something called as demo website, which we have just created, and on the function that we are running, we are also using session ID, which when we use it on, let's say once we log in into a particular website, it will generate a particular session ID for a particular user. So when that happens, and if you're using get again, if you're using get again, what that would do is at the back end on the log, all these get commands are shown, and if someone gets access to the log, then they can access your session. And let's say you're operating on an banking website, and you'll be logged in. If they directly put this link onto the URL, if the banking application doesn't have a security in place, like good security in place, what that would do is it will directly log you in rather than asking them to log back again. So that way, you can, hackers can steal money. And this is something that we need to make sure we rectify it when using post again. Post response is always helpful rather than using get. Session is, user enumeration is enumeration is when people want to find out things about yourself. Let's say I'm working at Google right now, and when we do a simple, let's say LinkedIn search, how many Shivanis would you find? Let's say you found out 5 Shivanis, and my surname is Shetty. So if someone wants to hack my email ID, what they would do is they would just go with shivani.shetty or at google.com. And if things at the back end are not configured well, what that would do is it would tell us that this user ID exists, and that would give a hint to the hacker that okay, we already have an user ID with this name. Let's try to crack it using brute force or any other method. So it is very important not to have a specific username, the specific error message if you're trying to log in. And we also have a factor. We also have a feature of forget passwords on many of the websites. So if we don't have an email in place, and if the person doesn't know an email of anyone, and they just tried shivani.shetty at google.com, they will know that okay, this user is there in the database now. Instead of displaying, we have already sent the forget password link to this user. We can generalize this link, to something else. The error message can be generalized, and a lot of things can be saved by that way. And if a lot of hacking takes place through this method, and lot of our information have been already on the dark web, and they are being sold. So again, here we are just putting up a message and how it can be implemented. Vertical privileges escalation is when, let's say, I'm logging in as the user, and but I want to see what would happen if you can see the website URL on the top. Now that I'm logged in, what if I replace that user with admin? If proper redirecting thing is not enabled, what would happen is it will directly put me on the admin panel, and with that I can change and make changes to anything that I want. Let's say I want to increase my salary, I can do that because I have the admin privileges now. So all these little things play a very important factor when it comes to while you're developing a website or applications. And if you want to make sure that all of this is handled very well, make sure there are steps that are already in place, like if this user is a super user, do they have the admin access? Or when you refresh it, it should not redirect you to something else. Clickjacking is something that is very commonly used, wherein you visit a website and you'll see a lot of ads popping up, and you are tempted to click on the ad because it shows you some kind of, let's say, some kind of deals. For example, some graphic card deals are going on. You're getting like graphic cards for like $200, or some deals on clothes. Macy's is giving 60% off, and you're tempted to click on the link. But you never know what would happen when you click on the link, right? So most of the time what happens is when you click on the link, it redirects you to something that is created, a website that is created by the hacker. It will be a mimic of what Macy's is, or any other website is. So why that is done is they want to get your username, password, and through that, a lot of information can be retrieved. And on records, till last month, I was going through a survey and found out that around 80 to 90% of the cyber attacks that take place around the world are because of phishing. Phishing is nothing but when you click on the link and this clickjacking is embedded with a phishing email, phishing, and when you click on that link, it will try to retrieve all the information from you. So we should make sure that we have everything in place. And here we are explaining this with an example of another way of clickjacking would be, let's say we are working in a trading industry, and there are two users. One of the best examples that I can always think of is Alice and Bob. Alice has some assets in the trading assets. She wants to trade in a few things, but Bob wants to make sure that he gets all the trade and he can make the most out of it. So what Bob does is Bob sends an email to Alice saying that if you can go through this website, and that website will have this iframe ID which will be hidden. Because if you can see, the opacity is 0 over here. So what that means is the whole frame won't be visible to the user who is using the application. It will be in the background, and it will be just hidden. And the things that Alice don't want to do she'll be doing it without unknowingly, and by that Bob will make use of it and have the trading informations. Another important thing is insecure URL redirects. That is one thing. Whenever you are configuring your buttons with any of the applications, make sure they are redirecting properly, and if they are not going to any other links other than that is not intended to. And make sure you always use HTTPS to be more secure and protected rather than using HTTP. All the old devices, most of them have HTTP, and it is very insecure right now. So making sure that all the things are updated, and that is why having things updated, we get updates from, let's say, on our iPhone. Making sure we have it updated is very important, because they release a lot of security flaws that are being released, and all those fixes have been already been made, and that is the reason you get a lot of updates. So making sure that whenever you are configuring a button, and if that button is taking you to some other URL, making sure that it is not taking you to an URL that is not intended for you. We need to make sure that all of them are correct, and we can have a code to check if something is going wrong somewhere and the hacker has changed something. There will be a check in the function that is being made. Coming to the last topic that I'll be discussing would be insecure TLS validation. It is very important to have certifications with whatever applications you are using. Most people ignore it, and now Python is coming with it has its own ill-built TLS validation certifications. But if it is available in open sourced, then even hacker knows about it. So making sure that you invest something in certification is also important. So rather than using a free certification that is available with the Python package, it's better to use a certificate that is valid, and if the certification expires, making sure that the certifications are up to date is very important. So if you can see on the first picture on the top, it says the certification is not valid anymore, and making sure that we have a valid certification is very important. And generally the code that is associated with certifications is given below, and if you can see there, import request on the second line, that is verify is equal to false. that means on that particular website, I won't have any certification request. And, that is a major security flaws. So I would like to end by saying that, as a developer, always make sure when you're developing something, you also test it out yourself before giving it to the testing team. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, here, I'll get you both back up here. I've got a number of questions. Got some great questions up here, so I'll get both of you back up on stage. And I'll let you all decide who takes what. There's only one question that was directed at a person. So, do you recommend any code analysis tools to determine if these exist in code? So some of the vulnerabilities that you've talked about here, are there any particular analysis tools that you recommend?
Yeah, so there's a website called as OWASP Top 10. You can go there, and when you're developing something, you can see the top 10 vulnerabilities that are available. And there are software like Snort that can be used to analyze things.
Excellent.
And to add that, you can always make sure all your employees know know the security measures with respect to web applications, just how you can prevent them, basic input validation, or using just in case with Python, if you're using external libraries, then Python is not responsible for something that external library does. So make sure the external libraries you do and what all external libraries you install, make sure those don't cause issues.
Okay, excellent. This was directed at you, Shivani. What's your opinion on using password tools like 1Password?
1Password was breached recently, so nothing is safe. I would say making sure that you remember things is the best way forward, I feel, because you can't trust any software. There will be data breach happening one or the other way.
Okay. I've always been a big fan of saying, all security is a compromise on the user experience. The easier something is to use, the more insecure it tends to be. The more secure something is, the harder it is to use. The shorthand is you can secure a house by filling it floor to ceiling with concrete. It won't be very useful, but everything in there will be really safe. But the corollary to that is anybody sufficiently motivated will get a jackhammer and get at that stuff. Are there any categories of security vulnerabilities that Python is particularly susceptible to? Like, for instance, C and C++ are kind of prone to risks for memory leaks.
So when you're using Python with external libraries like XML and that is written in C, then the strings you pass in as C1 does the deallocating of the memory, so that would lead to a vulnerability.
Okay. Are there any other particular types of vulnerabilities you think Python is particularly risky to?
I would say, there are vulnerabilities. There is one famous vulnerability called as log4j, in which the Python, again, third-party imports that we use, that has to be secure enough. And if that is secure enough, then yeah, we are good to go.
Agreed. On third-party dependencies, by the way, safety has been a good library.
Yeah.
For checking for vulnerabilities. Have you submitted this talk to DjangoCon US, which will be in Durham, North Carolina from September 22nd to 27th?
No.
I think somebody thinks you should. How does it... Oh, go ahead.
No, thank you for the information.
How does an attacker access GET request URLs?
So generally what happens is it happens at the backend. If you go to the log engine and check out what are the logs that you're getting, you'll have GET requests, and which will expose your username and password if you're using GET requests.
Okay, I'll do one more question, and I'm going to skip down to the bottom one here. How can developers mitigate clickjacking in their website? You talked about that as a vulnerability. How can developers defend against that? So like clickjacking that you talked about, how will developers defend against that?
With clickjacking, we can disable iframe, which will which won't allow iframe to run on the background, or so we can deny that. So there are ways you can prevent all of them. You just need to do a research about it, and you'll be at what you want to achieve.
Excellent. Okay. Well, another round of applause.